Facing death made me find God. My name is Linda Nowak. I am 50 years old, originally from a small town in Poland, and for the past 2 decades I've worked in hotel operations across Europe and the Gulf. Today I live in the United Arab Emirates. And this is the first time I'm sharing this part of my life on camera. So, look, I'll try to speak slowly, honestly, the way it actually felt, not the way I wish it had felt. I grew up in a grey apartment block on the outskirts of Krakow, the kind of place where walls echoed with the same morning routines, the same neighbours, the same winter winds slipping in through the windows. My mother worked double shifts at a bakery, coming home with a faint smell of yeast clinging to her clothes. My father drove city buses, returning each night with tired eyes and stories about passengers he'd never meet again. Life was simple, quiet, predictable. And in many ways, that predictability shaped me. We weren't very religious, not in a deep way. Church was something you did on Sundays because everyone else did. It was more tradition than belief. But even then, there was this little world inside me. I remember being a small girl lying awake long after my parents thought I was asleep, staring at the ceiling with my mind buzzing. What happens after we die? Why do we feel guilt even when no one sees us? Why do we long for meaning even when life seems ordinary? Those thoughts scared me, so I learned to bury them. When I was 17, I got my first job in a tiny hotel near the old town, and I loved it more than I expected. The guests, the movement, the crisp linens, the predictable routines. Maybe it's silly, but I felt safe in that structure. Safe in knowing exactly where I was needed. I rose fast. By my late 20s, I was managing teams. By my mid-30s, I was flying across Europe helping set up new properties. I felt competent, respected, needed, but I also felt something else. A slow, dull emptiness that lived in the spaces between accomplishments. An ache that pulsed in the quiet moments. I kept trying to outrun it with work, with travel, with promotions. And when I couldn't outrun it, I learned how to ignore it, pretending success could fill a space meant for something much deeper. When I moved to the UAE in my 40s, my life looked perfect from the outside. A senior management position, a high-rise apartment overlooking a skyline that glittered like it never slept, a calendar packed with meetings, business lunches, and constant travel. People would look at me and say, "You've made it." But inside, I was exhausted, spiritually dry. Some nights, I would lie in bed with the lights off, staring into the darkness, feeling this quiet, buzzing anxiety pulsing in my chest. Not panic, not fear, just a whisper that something in my life was deeply out of place. It felt like a warning, like life was tapping me gently on the shoulder, saying, "Look at yourself." And I kept pretending not to hear it. The truth is, success had become my entire identity. My badge, my title, my achievements, those were the mirrors I used to measure my worth. I didn't realize how fragile that foundation was until the day everything collapsed and the life I built so carefully suddenly felt paper thin. It started with fatigue, strange, bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. Then came the pain, then the hospital tests, And then, the doctor sitting across from me with a tone so gentle, I immediately knew something was very wrong. I don't remember his exact words, I just remember the feeling. The way the room suddenly felt too small, too bright. The way my hands started trembling. The way my mind tried to bargain with reality. Serious illness, immediate treatment, uncertain outcomes. I went home that night and sat on the floor of my living room, still wearing my work suit, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. This is when everything changed for me. Because the moment you realize your life is not guaranteed, you start telling the truth to yourself. And the truth was, I didn't know why I was alive. I didn't know what I believed. I didn't know where I was going after death. And for the first time in my life, I was scared. Deeply, honestly scared. In the weeks that followed, I was in and out of hospitals. My team sent flowers. People messaged me. But when the lights went off at night, I was alone with questions I could no longer avoid. One evening, my colleague from front office, a soft-spoken Filipina sister, sat with me after I had broken down in the staff corridor. She didn't preach. She didn't push anything. She just listened. And before she left, she said something simple. Linda, when my life fell apart years ago, I found peace in Islam. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. That sentence stayed with me. I started reading out of curiosity at first. I opened a translation of the Quran just to understand why so many people found comfort in it. But the strange thing was, it didn't feel foreign. It felt like something inside me was waking up. The clarity, the directness, the way it spoke about life, death, purpose, the heart, it felt like someone finally put into words everything I had been afraid to ask. I began visiting a small mosque near my apartment, quietly, sitting in the back. The calm there, it was unlike anything I had felt. No performances, no decorations. Just people bowing their heads, surrendering to something greater than themselves. And one night, after reading a verse about God being closer to us than our own jugular vein, I felt something inside me break open. I realized I had been searching for this closeness my entire life. I messaged my colleague. I think I'm ready. She came with 2 other sisters. We sat in a small circle. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. And I said the words slowly, almost whispering, but meaning every syllable. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. The moment I finished, I cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft, uncontrollable tears. Like my soul was finally exhaling after 50 years of holding its breath. Life didn't magically become easy. My illness didn't vanish overnight. Treatment was still long and painful. But my heart changed. And honestly, that changed everything. Look, before Islam, fear controlled me. I was terrified of losing my job, my health, my stability, my reputation. After Islam, I realized how little I had ever controlled to begin with. And instead of that being frightening, it became liberating. I started praying, slowly, clumsily, but each prayer felt like I was stitching myself back together. I found a community of sisters who supported me like family, even though they had known me for only weeks. And with every difficult day, I kept feeling something I had not felt in decades: peace. When I returned to work months later, people noticed I was different, softer, calmer, more present. And when they asked what changed, I didn't give dramatic answers. I just said, I learned what matters. If someone watching this feels like their life is collapsing, listen to me carefully. Sometimes God removes the illusion of control so you can finally meet the truth. Sometimes He shakes your life not to break you, but to wake you. Ask yourself, beneath your job, your routines, your goals, who are you really? What anchors your heart when everything else is taken away? And if you don't have an answer yet, don't be ashamed. Just be honest. That honesty is the doorway to something meaningful. And to anyone curious about Islam, approach it with sincerity, not fear. You don't need to rush. You don't need to pretend. Just open the Quran even once and let it speak to you. I promise, you will know when something is true. My name is Linda Novak, and facing death brought me to the one who gives life. I don't know how many years I still have, but for the first time, I'm not afraid. My heart has a home now, and that is the greatest gift I've ever received.